We are live.
This is Literary Roadhouse, one short story once a week. I'm Gerald.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Anais. Gerald, it's your story.
Yeah, I missed you cut out, so I missed you saying.
Yeah. I definitely said it.
It's going to be appalling. Okay, so I'll start. And this week we have been reading Three Friends in a Hammock by April Ayers Lawson. If you don't want spoilers, you know what to do. If you don't want spoilers, carry on. And this is a story about three women in a hammock. And that's about it, really.
Wow, I thought you said you liked it.
Yeah.
I did like it. I liked it, but there's not much to say about it. It's what it is. But I liked it. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can you like it and then just like undermine it in the summary? What did you like about it?
I loved the way that she told us so much about the characters that are in the hammock in an unusual way. I like the writing style. I loved that she was sort of telling us, the reader, about their friendship and why they were there, and the backstory, all in a sort of almost like it was almost like a stream of consciousness, but in some respects. But I thought she did it really well. I thought she told what the story was in a very, very good way.
Andy, do you have a different take?
Yeah, I do, but I'm really counting on Gerald to like this harder, because otherwise I'm just going to be making fun of this story. So going in, I had one big question, and that's, how do three people fit in one hammock reliably, comfortably? What are they doing? How big is this hammock? Seems like it's a normal-sized hammock. And we only got descriptions of the people in very curious sideways ways, but we know one of them is tall, and only two of them are light. So one of them is heavier. I'm a tall, heavy person myself, and I can tell you, there's no good way I'm fitting in a hammock with two other people.
Have you tried?
It's just, I've tried. I haven't been able to successfully manage a group hammock since I was in 8th grade.
Listen, I have seen oversized hammocks. The size of the hammock is the least of my complaints. I don't... okay, so here's the thing. In terms of a story, not even a story. It's like an essay pretending it's a story, which is horrible for me to say. But here's the good parts. The comments it's making on relationships, the comments it's making on friendship did resonate with me in a way that felt very true. Like, as I read this, and as I was, the little lines about how it's near impossible to be equally close to two people, you sort of shift in who's best friends with who in any given moment, right? I've had this group of friends since high school where, like, the five of us are very close and I love them all dearly, but truly, from year to year, especially throughout high school, I might be slightly closer to one, and the next year's the other one. And in high school, it was who did you have the most classes with? And then, after that, it's just like, who did you talk to the most this year? Now that we're all adults leading our lives separately. So, like, there is a sense in which that felt very true. And, the line about how in the very beginning, the friend's friend, which that's one of the other issues I had, like all these none of the names. So you had to keep track of like all the possessives and the pronouns. But her friend's friend X, who I guess X is the only name we get, who caught her man cheating on her, texting and sending pictures to these other two women, and she assumed herself like above or different from the other women who believed he was in love with them, but like she's probably just one more of a set of three. Like that, all of those little comments were very true. So why did I have a problem with the story? And the problem is strong. Like, why am I here like, ugh? Because it felt a little bit like an essay that is just being told to me. It almost feels like I'm this narrator's therapist and they're just telling me this story straight up. I'm not being taken through a journey. Things are not being unfolded to me. I'm not doing any work to discover anything. Like there's no all the experience that comes with reading a story where things are unfolding and you're getting little clues and you're seeing things here and there and all of that's not there. So it just feels like an essay, a very intimate essay that's very smart. It's a very smart author who wrote this, who has some very sharp insight into human relationships. But I'm not on a journey here, and it's like, so that's it. That's my long of where I'm at.
Yeah, I take what you say, and certainly the discussion of friendship and what friendship means, and how these three women do. I think how she described their friendship is very true to life, and I have friends like that too, that you're close to, but you're not close to, and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it was really good, and yes, it didn't have a story arc, and I think that's the big problem. It's almost like, oh, and they woke up and it was all a dream. They suddenly realized someone was singing happy birthday and they had to go back to the party, and so the ending I didn't like. I thought it was quite clumsy, and I thought she could have done something better with the characters, but I just loved the way she told us about these characters. And we've had slice of life stories in quotation marks before that get criticized for not being a story, having no story arc. But there was something about this. I don't know what it was. I really, really enjoyed the reading of it. I've read it about 3 times now, and I just love reading it. It's as I said at the beginning, I think it's more to do with the way she writes, and one of us is this and 2 of us is that, and one of us does this, and she never explicitly describes who is doing what and who did what, because it's not important. They are fully rounded characters that for me work really well. I'm very happy with it.
So it's funny. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh no, finish your thought.
No, you should finish your thought.
Good, because my thought's better. I disagree very slightly with you, Anais, in that I don't think this was an essay pretending to be a story. Right? It's a story in quotation marks about the complex and confusing interpersonal relationships between these people who all are dealing with so much inner anxiety and turmoil anyway. And it's trying to make us feel those emotions, not through the content of the words, but through the shape and arrangement of the words. And that is a poem. She is tricking me into reading poetry. And I don't care for it. If you're going to write a poem, write a poem. But don't let the cadence and shape of your words tell a story and make me think this is a story to be read. No. And then, oh yeah, it's a story about how these people are like too cerebral and get caught up in their own heads and stop paying attention to the world outside. And then when something snaps them back to reality, all of a sudden they can use people's names again. Like, yeah, very clever. I see what you did there. It was clever. But you know what else is clever? Writing a story where I'm not fundamentally confused about who's talking or which person is tall and which person is short.
Hold on. Go back to what you were saying, where it's about people being cerebral, and then because at the end they all snap back in when they realize they're at a party. So I get where you're saying that. However, it's not like we're in 3 people's minds, or these 3 people are having a very cerebral conversation. We're in one person's mind throughout this whole thing,
right?
And it isn't even clear she's talking to the others. We just know she is. But like, it's about X's X.
It's one person who is one of these 3 people who earlier admits that they all dissociate for long periods of time and then snapped back to our surface, are unaware of what had been happening and for how long we'd been away. And then sure enough, in the last line, they snap back to reality, and all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, people have names. We're here with Armand's birthday.
Yeah. The Albanian guy's brother.
Yeah.
You know, should I tell you something funny? This morning when I was thinking about this story, I was thinking, because Andy is such a perhaps slightly caustic commentator, if something doesn't please him, I sort of think, I hope Andy likes this story. I hope he likes it, because I want Andy's approval. There's something deep and weird going on in my head. But actually, I'm glad he didn't like it, because he's making me laugh. I love his comments.
Yeah. When I was thinking about the story, I was thinking about Rami. I was like, you know how Rami used to say so many times that we shouldn't be submitting stories blindly. I'm like, this is the first time where I'm like, you know what? Maybe Rami was on something. And again, I didn't hate it. I didn't walk away mad. I just felt like, what am I supposed to discuss? It's very like, yeah. Go ahead, Gerald.
She's won prizes and everything, this author. She can write.
But for this story, maybe for other stories. She can write. There was nothing about this story. If anything, it's pretty incredible that on my first read through, I figured out that not the woman in the middle, the woman on the opposite side of the woman in the middle is the Albanian woman whose ex-husband is the architect, whose brother is the birthday party they're at the cookout for, even though there's like no names, there's no signifiers, and yet there's something in the writing that's so deft that I'm able to follow that well enough. Like, that is in and of itself impressive. And the way that the words all flowed together, the prose was very nice. And it communicated things in a way that was clear. Sounds like an underhand compliment. It sounds like you were clear, but you know what I mean? It just, there was maybe self-possessed. Like, definitely this is a writer who knows exactly what she wants to say and can get that across in a very skillful way. Like, that's something you can't take away from her. But I'd love to see it in an actual story where you're like, drawing a picture, slowly showing me things, getting somewhere. There is some sort of progression. There is no character arc here, and there is no plot either, right? I'd love to see these skills applied to an actual story, because I like to read fiction and stories.
Yeah. It's figure that. You're into stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not fake pretend stories.
I think from now on, I'm always going to choose stories that I know Andy's going to hate. No, that's not true. Yeah, yes, and I think Anais is right. We have this thing on the podcast that we choose stories blind, and there's a sort of freshness, and there's a way in which that is a way in which we all come to it fresh, and we got, this is my favorite story, I hope you like it, sort of thing. No, this is what the story is, and we'll make of it what we will. So in a way, I still quite like that idea that we don't actually choose our stories having known them and read them. But yeah, sometimes there are going to be stories that some people don't like.
Yeah. Also, there was this sort of meditation in the story. Like, let's keep returning to the text, because at the end of the day, this is still someone who wrote a work and put it out there. And they are trying to get ideas across. And there was this meditation about whether or not love is something that is real or provable. Is it more like God, or, like that sort of, that little bit of conversation. I want to find it. I don't know what you guys thought of that section. So it was, I could not decide whether or not people had ever really loved each other. If they could stop loving each other, I could not decide if love was a real thing or something that could never entirely be proven, like God, and could only be experienced in the act of reaching, and so in retrospect would always fall in doubt. I could not decide if I could love and be loved factually. At some times in my life, the words "I love you" had seemed like a revelation, not a reason to brace myself for its withdrawal. So I feel like that's a pretty, that's the heavy theme. Like, that's the thesis, right? Like, what did you guys make of that? What went through your mind when you read that?
I think for me, there was one of the sections I highlighted just preceded that, which I think which goes, not knowing the words, I saw only people making sounds at each other, filling the kitchen with atmospheric perfume, and I think I was so blown away by that beautiful sentence. I just sort of read the rest of it and just thought, I don't understand. So basically, I don't know. I don't. I had a conversation with someone a while ago about belief in things and coming from it from the point of view of I don't believe anything that I can't see and touch and smell and but they said, do you believe in love? And you think, yes, obviously, but that's so it's a difficult thing to resolve, and I still don't know, and I still don't believe in God, but I certainly believe in love that I can't touch, and it's an internal feeling. So yeah, I think I'm with her. I don't know whether I believe in it or not, and I like the way she expressed that much better than I can.
I feel like, Gerald, if you want to know if you believe in a thing called love, you just listen to the rhythm of your heart.
Gerald's getting the reference. It is from a song. I believe in a thing called love.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I thought, okay,
Lost on me.
An interesting little meditation, but also the answer is no. And so we could have just said like, hey, no, and then moved on with our lives. You don't have to spend 4 paragraphs on it. It's like, oh, what's the sound of one hand clapping? There you go. Yeah, it answered.
No, I'm going to push back against that. I think for me, what I was reading, so the whole the very last line, at some time in my life, the words "I love you" had seemed like a revelation, not a reason to brace myself for its withdrawal. My thought was, as soon as she falls in love again, though, it will be a revelation. The no comes at a time of bitterness, post breakup, when you're still feeling like things didn't work out, so all of that was BS. Because Andy, like, not to put you on the spot, but haven't you also had the moments where it felt like revelation?
Yeah, but it turns out I was dumb and wrong.
Until you fall in love again, then all of a sudden it's revelation again.
Then I just forgot the lesson I learned.
Or actually it never exists and it isn't real, and other people's love is all fake, and they're all just, deluding themselves into believing it. A defense mechanism for the hearted.
Very good.
I don't know.
What I liked about that. No, for now. What I liked about that is the way that it very much revealed there is a underlying bitterness to this very cerebral disclosure of all of these breakups. Not in a bitterness where it's like, lady, get over yourself. Not like that, but just sort of like having been disappointed in their relationships. They're all sort of bonding to each other in this sort of like bitterness, like this shared disappointment in love, a sort of disbelief in it that's more exoskeleton than actual belief, right? I don't think they actually don't believe in love one way or the other. I think whether or not you believe in it very much depends on where you're at in your relationships right now. And in fact, for me, it's been a test. If I'm in a relationship and I suddenly start thinking things like, maybe the fundamental of relationships is just like a partnership that works out, but like it's not really love anyway. Like as soon as I start thinking that, a relationship's going to be done in a year or two. That's what that means. So like there's a way in which your belief in love really is where you're at in your love life. And this sort of detached, very cerebral way of looking at it is a defense mechanism that's supposed to make you feel like you're above it, you're more intelligent than the saps who believe in it. But isn't there a bitter defensiveness in there? I like that because I recognize it. I've been there. I know that. I like that. She's very smart. I just also wanted a story.
Right? Yeah. Wouldn't it have been great if that was part of a story?
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, but considering that it is what it is, and it was presented as a piece of fictional writing, I thought it was and could be enjoyable because of that. Yeah, maybe it doesn't sort of tick the boxes that it should do with this podcast, perhaps, but it's a I don't know. I'm more forgiving of this. I think I'm more forgiving of this because it's quite a sort of it's quite cleverly written, and I could enjoy the fact that it's cleverly written without needing to have a full story arc within it.
See, I think it's too cleverly written, and she knows it. She should have dialed it back. Also, for all our listeners out there, maybe you should write your stories thinking of this podcast. That's good advice. I'd certainly enjoy them more.
Yeah. Well, going back to, so why? Because I know I've let stories that aren't stories, pieces of writing, get away with it when it also does something else. And I think maybe the biggest problem for me is I come to the end of this and my feeling a little bit was a sense of so what. I think that's why I walked away. Like, even as I'm like, yeah, good point. Oh, that's smart. I enjoyed thinking about that. Yes, quite cerebral. Yes, me too. But you get to the end and there's that so what feeling. Maybe it's just when I don't get that so what feeling, I like it. And when I do get it, I don't. It's that simple. Like, I wonder if our tastes are that simple sometimes. Like, do I need to walk away from it feeling very sad, going, what a tasty meal? Or walking away from being like, okay. Even if along the way I wasn't actually irritated. I wonder if there's something to that.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like you're making excuses about falling out of love.
It does.
You said the exact same thing about love as you said about this story, which says this story's bad. Because if it was a good story, you would be in love.
Also, I wonder if the thing that I was saying, where like when I start realizing that I'm kind of like discounting the importance of love in a relationship spells doom for the relationship. I wonder if you could like trick yourself into being like, no, love is the most important thing, and that's the only reason I'm still here, because clearly I must love him. And you just like force that on yourself, and all of a sudden the relationship works. Like, I wonder if there's just an investment in that narrative that makes some relationships go through the rough patches. Like, just like this willingness to like pull the wool over your eyes and just be like, even if in that moment things aren't great, because over the span of decades, things aren't always going to be great. You're just like, la la la, the narrative of our love is a great fable that I believe. And that's how you get past the rough patch.
That's also how people get trapped in abusive relationships.
It is. I know. There's a danger to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll end up reading
that's
3 Friends in a Hammock.
Oy. I think I think there is a case for when you're in a, and I think especially as someone of more mature years, I think as you get older, there is a temptation to think, is this it? And is this the rest of my life? And you then evaluate your life with the person and think, is this really what I want? And it's okay, and it's convenient, and it's this and it's that, and there's also all these sort of reasons why you should stay in the relationship, but actually the relationship's dead, and it's just practicalities that are keeping you together.
Yeah.
Not bitter at all, me.
That's why I don't believe in love right now, which I'm surprised. I thought you'd be back on Love is a Revelation train.
Oh, I do.
Oh, see? Yes, of course. How can you not be back on it?
I do believe in it.
Just listen to the rhythm of your heart.
How to Yeah, I do probably, but I think but how to describe it and why, what makes you fall in love with someone, what actually happens, is where I struggle with, because when I get on my little perch and say, God, I can't see him, I can't, it doesn't exist, all this sort of stuff, there's no proof, and they say, well, what about love? And I just go, well, yeah, but that's different. No, it isn't different. It's something happens inside me, and I guess it might be the same way with people who believe in God, that something happens inside them, and they think they sign up and say, yeah, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
half
a lot
of
of podcasters, a lot of there's a lot of subscribers going to go, whoa, enough.
I think it's like the second half of the God line in this story, which was like that love is something that could only be experienced in the act of reaching, and in retrospect would always fall in doubt. Like that really crystallizes it for me. Which I think also speaks to your God point, where it's like in that moment where you're striving for whether it's love or faith in God, like the striving is when it feels the most real. After the fact, when you look back, you're like, wait, was it? Right? Like, did that just happen because it was always going to happen? Or was that an act of God? Was I actually in love, or had I just sort of tricked myself into thinking I was in love? Yeah. I like the parallel she drew there. I liked it a lot. Because she's very smart. She's a very smart lady. I just still wanted a story. I wanted to walk away feeling satisfied. Also, I said this in the pre-show. I just finished reading The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. And Edith Wharton does such a good job of showing you things and not telling you, but still making these great commentaries on like marriage and society and feminism that are all in there. And then when the big revelation happens at the end that you had already guessed, you're just like, oh, God, that was perfect. And you don't guess it too early, right? Like, that's always sucks when you're like, okay, I get it by now. Like, you guess it in just the right spot, and all of a sudden it's proven to you when the main character realizes the thing you already suspected. You're just like, yes. That is the fun part of reading a story, where it's not always about the themes. It's not always about how smart you are and sharply drawing the facts of what it is to be human and live in society and have relationships, right? Like, I love that about The Age of Innocence. I love all the comments she's making on like marriage and feminism. And this guy in the beginning of the story, he's like kind of having a feminist awakening and is thinking about the liberation of women, but only as it applies to other women, not his own fiance at that point. In that case, her gender roles are great, right? All these little like sharp insights that she's making are great. And this story is all those sharp insights that are great. But then in that story, I also have the just satisfying, like, yes, I knew it, right? Like just the pure plot part of things that is just wonderful when it's done well. And it's fun. That's why we read stories.
Yeah.
That is why we read stories.
It's part of it. Because like you need both, I think, for a story to be good,
I don't know. It needs certainly the second part to be good.
It needs the first part too, I would argue, because if you had a story that was pure entertainment but never made any commentaries about anything that we could relate to, you would be
I would be entertained.
No, you wouldn't. I don't think you would be. I think you'd be a little bit like, this is pointless. I don't care. Why,
I don't know. It's tautological. If you have a story that's pure entertainment, you would be entertained.
I guess. But like, even like if we're gonna go into like, so what's like the most pure entertainment? Like, I'm just gonna give you these notes that every time I give you, you're gonna be like, okay, my entertainment like neurons are firing. Like the Marvel movies, the Avenger movies, like they hit all that, and even they try to have like, let's wrestle with parts of humanity somewhere in there, because without it, it feels, even something that already feels kind of empty feels too empty if you don't have like, but it's about friendship, right? Like you still need something that resonates with people. If even the Marvel
doesn't
movies,
have to be. Yeah, no. It doesn't have to be, does it? Because people take different things, and I think some people who you presented a worthy story to would say, I didn't like it. I didn't get it. That maybe they might feel intimidated by it. And I had this conversation this morning actually. That what should a writer be writing? Should they be writing the best, most complicated, worthy story they can muster, or should they just, excuse me, genre writers, but should they just bash out a good old story with lots of action and lots of plot, and people buy it and love it? I think there's room for both.
Yeah, but I think even genre writers, what I'm trying to say is even they try to put in some greater theme. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes it depends on what their audience is. Like in young adult stuff, there's a lot of themes around like identity and figuring out who you are, and not being beholden to like peer pressure and stuff that's going to resonate more with like a 14-year-old than an adult for sure. But it's still in there, right? Like absent it, I think it feels too empty.
Yeah.
And there's
I mean, I would, I would agree, and I would agree that that there has, as a writer, there has to be a theme that drives you to write what you want to write, and to there must be. It's not just I'm going to write about this soldier who goes and kills people and gets shot at and stuff like that. I think there's I think as a writer, if you can include some of yourself and some of your own feelings and aspirations and questions into the story, then you get more out of the story, and you feel it becomes more something that you created rather than just typed out on a computer. So I think there is that, but I definitely think that some people don't want to think too hard when they read a story, and they just want something that's going to keep them entertained for a while.
Yeah, there's definitely different levels of how much challenge a reader's willing to take. 100%, right? There's the people who just like want the more heavily plotted this, then this, then this. That still has a plot twist somewhere in there, right? And then there's like the people who are like, again, going back to like the Age of Innocence, like if you want to take it the most uncharitable view, it's people in a very restricted society where you can never breathe, never breathing. Like that's the story, But if you do a little bit of work, you see all the little machinations beneath it that make it very beautiful. Because ultimately, a lot of the stuff there's very few big dramatic moments. Anyway,
What if
no car chases, no gunfights.
Oh.
Not one for me.
And a lot of like the
What
hot
sort of
gossip
story
that's
is it?
happening happens off screen, and you have to guess at it, and that also makes it fun. Actually, you're just like, you doesn't know
Excellent.
that everyone's talking shit about him. Like he's like, oh, maybe they're not telling me about this because they just think that I'm like on her side. No, they think she's your lover. 100%. Like it's great. Anyway, everyone should read that. It was also The Age of Innocence was it won the Pulitzer, and it was the first Pulitzer won by a woman. So another reason to read it.
Yeah. So there's that. You should put it on the book club once.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, I'd actually reread it. We did it a few months out. So it's not that long. I don't have anything else to say though.
Okay. No. I'll sit out.
So shall we do ratings?
I think so. I'll start on the positive note. Probably the most positive note. I'll give it a 4.5.
I'm not too far behind you. I talked myself up to a 4.
Okay.
Definitely a 2.
That's good.
Okay.
Don't trick me anymore, authors. Don't tell me it's a story. It's a poem.
Okay, so before the game, what stories are we going to be submitting for next week? Annalise?
Where'd it go? I just had it out and it disappeared. I think, let me find it again. I just had it and it went away. It was a grand story as well. Had it out. Can you go, Andy?
Yeah, this is a
I will be
story.
submitting Ross Perot and China by Ben Lerner.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a Sally Rooney story, but I'm forgetting the name of it. Mr. Salary. Mr. Salary by Sally Rooney.
Okie dokie. Okay, so this week we have a proper quiz. None of this guessing one question stuff. and we have a number of rounds. And to follow the splendid story, This is a quiz all about threes.
Oh
Because there
God.
are three friends in Hammock. Okay, well, so we'll start easy. And where we got? So Andy's on the left, and Anise is on the right. This is how you both have the same initial. That's not good. I can't just write A and A, can I?
Use the first two letters.
More work. Okay.
The first
Yes.
one is also match.
Oh, what a brilliant! Oh,
That's why I said that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's a joke. I got it, Andy. so Andy, right? I
Yeah.
want you to give me it's titles of things with the word three in them. So Larry, Curly, and Moe are
The Three Stooges.
Three Stooges. Anais, these magi are said to have visited Jesus after his birth.
The Three Wise Kings. I don't know what you're looking for. The Three Wise Men. They're kings.
Yay!
Wise men.
I'm looking for that. Three wise men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Andy, Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, and Jose Carreras were
Three tenors.
three tenors. Exactamundo. Anais, Madame Rosmerta's pub in Harry Potter's Hogsmeade.
This is bad. Not huge for Harry Potter.
Sorry?
Uh,
Oh, no.
is the name of the pub?
Yeah.
Three Griffins. Nothing.
Yeah, nice try. It's the Three Broomsticks. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
I
thought
don't
you
know
would have read it.
No.
Okay, Andy. Lucky Day, Ned Nederlander, and Dusty Bottoms are.
The Three Amigos.
You're good at this game. Well done. Anise.
Three is one of my favorite numbers.
Are
Athos, Porthos, and Aramis were.
those the Three Musketeers? No.
No?
Aren't they? Are they? The last one sounded like.
That's
Is it Three
three.
Musketeers?
Athos, Porthos, and Aramis.
I don't know. Is it?
From a book. Is it what? From a book?
Three Musketeers?
Yeah. Three Musketeers, exactly.
I don't know why the writing of the first two.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Andy, the 1979 scene of a near disastrous accident at a nuclear plant in America.
3 Mile Island.
Did you say
3
Could
Mile
you repeat
Island?
it because I missed it? Yes, 3 Mile Island. Anais, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey's circular showcase. Oh, you've got the hard ones, haven't you?
Yeah. The Barnum and Bailey Circular Showcase. Like the 3 tents.
Yeah.
I don't know, 3 tents? Like the 3 big circus tents?
It's a 3-ring circus.
No,
3-ring circus. Those are
it's three. It's the 3. It's sort of quite famous. So it's 4-2. So I'll just do the last one. Andy, 2007 Russell Crowe and Christian Bale movie set in the Wild West.
310 to Yuma.
Yay! Anais, 2017 film starring Frances McDormand and Woody Harrelson about finding justice for a murdered daughter.
I saw this in theaters too, now I'm forgetting it. They kept doing the billboards. She thinks the deer is her daughter reincarnated. What was it called? I saw it too. So bad.
Really?
I saw it and I loved it. Woody Harrelson killed it. And so did Frances McDormand.
Yeah. Brilliant acting.
What was the name of it? 3 billboards. In
3. Yeah, it's three. I mean, you haven't won anyway. It's 3 billboards outside Epping, Missouri.
Outside of
Ebbing,
I
Missouri.
can remember the place.
Yeah,
3 billboards something.
That's it.
3 billboards in some place.
3 billboards in a place. In a place, and it was a great movie, and I liked it.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, that's a very good one. And I was going to ask you, the tiebreaker was going to be from the China syndrome because the nuclear reactor out of control would have burnt its way through the center of the Earth and come out in China. Was the diameter of the Earth equatorial or polar, miles or kilometers? I had everything available and can't use it.
Oh gosh. Well,
So yeah, go on, guess, Andy.
3 miles. It's a very small planet. Not many people know it.
Okay, that's cool. So I'm guessing Annie's would go a little bit larger. It's
Wait.
7,000. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Go on. Too late.
No, I feel like I misunderstood the question. Is
What
it
were you going to say?
the diameter of the Earth, or is you were mentioning something about the
Yes.
China thing?
Yeah, because that's why the China syndrome is called that, because the theory is that an out of control nuclear reactor would just continue burning its way through the center of the Earth and come out on the other side, which happens to be China from Pennsylvania, sort of, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of how far it would have to burn. But anyways, 7,900 miles. So there you go.
Nice.
So Andy, we're reading your story next week, which is
That is Ross Perot and China by Ben Lerner.
Okay. But before you go, tell us what your friend thought of this story. Reach out via our Facebook group, Literary Roadhouse Readers, or Twitter at Literary Roadhouse, or our website, literaryroadhouse.com. Of the 3 of us, 2 of us didn't love this story, and 1 of us did. 2 of us are reading a story, a novel, Frankenstein in Baghdad by Ahmed Sadawi. Join us on the Literary Roadhouse Book Club, where we discuss a novel each month. And lastly, this story reminded us the importance of podcasting from hammocks. Support our hammock and podcast expenses at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with your small-aged white dogs. Until next time, read a good story.